Good evening.
Hello.
We are on Ayin Amud Aleph. Very famous Gemara coming up. We've been dealing with the sugya of Yaharig Val Yavor, that you're supposed to allow yourself to be killed rather than worship Avodah Zarah or kill somebody or do some kind of a prohibited sexual immorality act. Someone says, sleep with this woman or I will kill you. You're supposed to allow yourself to be killed. Listen how far it goes. A man became infatuated with a woman. He saw her and vehela libo tina. He became heartsick. But this means, in the way Chazal understood it, he actually became lovesick. He had some kind of sickness. Ubo v'shalu l'rofim. They went to the medical experts. He will not be cured of whatever illness he had unless he has relations with this woman that he fell in love with. Chacham says, just because the doctors, he should die rather than carry that out. We don't care. We're not going to allow that, even if it's going to cause his death. So then the doctor said, Tamad lefanav aruma, let her just stand naked in front of him. No act, no sexual act, just she'll stand there. Chazal answered, Yamus va'al tamad lefanav aruma. We don't allow that. We don't even allow her to stand there to save his life. This is under the issue. This falls under the category of Yaharig Val Yavor when it comes to rayas. Tisaper imo machrei geder. Okay, let her stand behind a wall, and let her talk to him. Yamus v'lo tisaper imo machrei geder. Because I'll say she's not allowed to do that. We want him to die, rather than we allow the woman to talk to him across the wall. Pliki bar Rav Yaakov bar Yidi bar Shmuel bar Nachmani. So there was a machlokas amiroim how to actually understand this case. Chad amar eishes ish haisa. One opinion says this case talks about a married woman. So, and he put his eyes on a married woman. Well, you're not allowed to live with a married woman. That's a prohibited isser that would give you the capital punishment. Okay, but that's actually if you have relations with her, just seeing her naked or having her talk to you, but still, that's the Chazal go beyond the law to say that even an Eishes Ish is not allowed to do that. However, Chadar Pnuya Haisa. The other Bandar says no, she was a single girl, not married. Technically, there's no Isser to live with her. It's just Znus. But Chazal don't allow it. They rather have him die than carry those things out. We understand Eishes Ish. I mean, why such an extreme opinion by the Chachamim regarding even a Pnuya? So Rav Papa Mishum Pgam Mishpacha. Because even if it's a single girl and the girl is known to have had to talk to him across the wall or stand naked in front of him, that's embarrassment to the family. That If we would allow this, the Benos Yisrael would become hefker. Anyone who has a desire for any girl and it has to submit to this kind of thing, it's going to lead to hefkerus. So the Gemara asks, fine, linsava means minsav, so let him marry her. She's a pnuya. He has fallen in love with her to the point where he's sick. Let her get married. So the Gemara has an unbelievable psychological answer. Lo meyais v'daita. That's not going to cure him of his heart sickness. The whole point is stolen waters are sweeter. Dam Rav Yitzchak, Yom Shechar Beis Hamikdash Nitla Tam Bia. The enjoyment of relations when it's done in a permitted way is gone. V'nitna la'ovre avera. The only people who still have that tam, the lust, the real lust, is those people who commit averas by sleeping with people they're normally not allowed to sleep with. Shenemar mayim gnuvim yimteku v'lehem straim yinam. It means the only thing that they're interested in is stolen waters. Regular, just to get married to her, to have regular relations with her is not enough. It's not going to cure him of his heart sickness. Did someone have a question?
Yeah, no, the only thing is how the Chachamim know that. They shouldn't be able to know that kind of thing, in other words.
They were psychologists.
Yeah.
We had many times where they talk about chazakas, tablet, I
get it, but
you would rather get married to anybody rather than live alone. How did they know that? In fact, today they argue with Tavlameta that all thousands of girls that live on the west side alone, they say, well, the chazaka doesn't exist anymore. No, Rav Soloveitchik said that it's written in the Torah by the pasuk, Vachein Dovakish, connected to a pasuk. That's the existential description of women. And just because sociologically or today we see a different thing, but the Torah mentions it, we don't change the mitzvahs. So very fascinating Gemara about psyche, right? Eluen and Nisrafi. So we're new parak Chi. We went through the list of the averis that give you skila. Now we're going to go through the ones that give you sreifa. Habo al isha ubita. You have relations with a woman and her daughter. That's one case. Ubas kohen shezinsa. The daughter of a kohen who commits any avera biznus. Yesh bechlal isha ubita bita. This isser of isha ubita, it's the same as if he had relations with his daughter and the daughter's daughter, or with the daughter and the daughter of his son, or he has relations with his wife and also bas ishto. Now we're not talking about having a duo. What are we saying? Not a duo. A twosie. What a twosome.
A threesome.
Twosome. Well, threesome with having
a threesome. Menage a trois.
Yeah, menage a trois. We're not talking about that this happening simultaneously. You're not allowed to have relations with Isha ubita, we understand, because you live with your Isha, and then you already, once you sleep with the Bito, you violated Isha ubita. But even if you had relations with her a month later or something, you understand, it's not simultaneous. These Isra are not simultaneous.
Bito is not Bito doesn't say anywhere in the Torah you're not allowed to, her daughter, yes. But your daughter, it doesn't say anywhere you're not allowed to sleep with,
Of course it does.
Where?
In Achremos.
No, show me. It does not say
Bito.
No, it does not show. Bito is her daughter. does not show your own daughter. So look in the pasuk.
Okay, but anyways, so perhaps we'll see if that's correct. But the Mishnah is saying that Bito already falls into this category, right? Yesh bechlal isha ubita bito. You understand? Within this isser of isha ubita, which the Torah definitely writes, you have memela an isser of bito, because sleeping with your wife and another time sleeping with your daughter is isha ubita.
No, it's Isha Ubito. It's her daughter. It's not your daughter from
Then look at look. Isha ubita. Yesh b'chal isha ubita bito. Bito means his daughter, which means the daughter of ubas.
But that's at the same time, mate.
Then ubas. No, it's not the same time. It's not the same time. It's not the same time. You're not allowed to have relations with a woman and her daughter at any time in their existence, whether they are alive or not alive. These Isurim exist even after Misa. You know, like you can marry your wife's sister after your wife's death. But that doesn't exist by most other Isurim. Like Eishes Av. Just because your father's not alive, you're still not allowed to live with the stepmother. So this remains the same thing. So Rashi says, Isha ubita ksiva bade. It's already written beferish Isha ubita. Because it talks about chamoso. It gets sreifa, and that's referring to Isha ubita. Because it says, Ki kach ish es Isha ve'esima zimahi, ba'esh yisrefu oso v'esen. And so, yesh bichlal isha ubito bito. So there's already the isser of having relations with your daughter, because if you can't live with a woman and her daughter, and let's say you're married to this woman and she has a daughter, bito's already isser, and there's the punishment because you're sleeping with your wife, and now you've slept with your daughter, you're going to get sreifa, al bito. Then ubas bito. Let's say you sleep with the daughter and her daughter, or ubas beno. Let's say you sleep with a second generation, but not necessarily from your daughter, but the daughter of your son. Then ubas ishto, that's a stepdaughter, right? That's not bito, that's the daughter of his wife. Ubas bita, right? Let's say you sleep with the stepdaughter and her daughter, or ubas bina, or let's say she had a son, a granddaughter. Then comes chamoisoy, mother-in-law, ve'em chamoisoy, and her mother, or ve'em chamiv, the mother of your father-in-law. So all of these fall under the category of isha ubita, where you're done with sreif. Now, says the Gemara, Habal isha shenasa bita. Loktani. Kloima. Midiktani, I'm reading Rashi. Midiktani sefer ish bechlal. Mechlal the high isha ubita bahanach tisivim by. A regular a wife and a woman and her daughter, that is written in the Torah. The lav the ishto babas ishto, and it's not talking about his wife and his stepdaughter. Ela b'chamoisoi is talking about a mother-in-law. The sreifak sivba. V'ha haboala isha diktani lav b'ishtohu. When it says haboala isha, it's talking about any woman, not necessarily his wife. The imken haboala isha v'ima maboile lemisne. What do you mean? We don't need to be told about your wife and her mother, because it already says chamoisoi. V'inami hach isha chamoisa kamer havalei lemisne haboala isha. Shenasa bita dahainu chamoisoi. Haloiktani ela habal isha ubita. A mother sleep with a woman with her daughter. Michlal tavai liser. It's all iser. V'lo yiskru ishto lakan umaninu chamoisre ve'em chamoisre. Talking about his mother-in-law and the mother of his mother-in-law. V'hachi kamar. This I have to understand the Mishnah. Habal em chamoisre. You have relation with the mother-in-law's mother. Oh, albita, or her daughter, which is your mother-in-law. V'hainu chamoisre. Uktani, and on that, yesh bechlal isha ubita kulohana. Al mahach isha ubita ksivi badei. It's written directly in the Torah. Like the Gemara explains, habal isha ubita, you have relations with a woman and her daughter, you get sreifa. Michlal tavar li surah. Both are prohibited. And even when he had relations with the first one, there was an isser. Maniu. Like a regular woman, there's no isser to marry a regular woman. So it must be that there was already an isser to marry this woman. Who is it? A mother-in-law. That means when you have relations with, the Gemara is saying that the Mishnah is talking about a case where you lived with a mother and a daughter, but even the first living with was already prohibited. Now, if you just take some single woman in the street, you're not prohibited to live with that person. So the Gemara is seeming to say that this punishment of sreifa is only going to be where even the first relationship is prohibited. On the other hand, if he first married a woman who was permitted to him, and then he had relations with his mother-in-law's mother, you're over mishumisha ubita, gamala aim v'gamala bas. Uketani, yesh bechlal isha ubita, other halachos. Michlal the tavai ksivi badei. V'anich midusha asya. Both were isurim to start with. So aim chamoisa lechor therefore is already a befershtik iser in the Torah. And they're written b'mikra. And therefore when we read isha ubita, the Gemara is saying we're referring to chamoisoi and aim chamoisoi. But that only works on Ichalabaya, the Omar, that later on we're going to see a machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva, that mashmos dorshan ikibinayu. They're not really arguing the halacha. They're arguing in how we learn the halacha. So then we could say our Mishnah Masnis Mani Rabbi Kiva, that he says that Eim Chamoisoi is written b'mefoirish. It's not something that's derived. The Isser of living with your mother-in-law's mother is not something that's derived by Chazal. It's mamish written. Because when it says Isha Ubita, that's what it's referring to. That's how Rabbi Kiva learns. And Abai is saying our Mishnah therefore is Rabbi Kiva. El Rava, that Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel are arguing not just in terms of how the limud works, but they're arguing in the din itself regarding chamoisoi la'achar nisa. For example, is there a prohibition after your wife dies to live with your mother-in-law? And then, therefore, based on that issue, the Torah is not writing at all about the mother-in-law's mother. And therefore, Masnis and Mani, it's not like Rabbi Shmuel, it's not like Rabbi Kiva, it's not like anybody. Tni, Habal Isha, Shenasa Bita. That you happen to have married a woman who was the daughter of a certain woman, and you had relations with that woman, the mother of your wife. Now we also learn Yesh Bechlal Isha Ubita Chamoisoi ve'em Chamoisoi ve'em Cham. Part of the prohibition is mother-in-law, the mother-in-law's mother, or the mother of the father-in-law. Now, according to Abaye, he says the mother-in-law's mother's awesome, and not everybody agrees to that because it's written in the Torah. But from this Mishnah, it seems we're just learning it from a drasha. So the Gemara says no, because I the Kaboy Mishnah Ein Chamav. The Mishnah wanted to mention that there's a prohibition to live with your father-in-law's mother, Ninami, we threw in chamois v'em chamois, the mother-in-law, right? Your wife's mother and her mother. Even though they're written in the Torah, we don't need it. According to Rava, that we're talking about a different. It's not aim chamav and chamois. We're talking about you married a woman and then you ended up living with her mother. Why does it have to be repeated? Okay. Now, menohani mili. Where do we learn these dinim from? The pasuk says, "Isha sher yikach es isha ve'es ima, zimahi." Person who lives with a woman and her mother, ba'esh yisrefu oso ve'esen v'lo siyazima b'sochachem. Ainli ela isha ve'ima. Okay, that's having relations with a woman and her mother. How do we know that if you live with a woman and her daughter, right? Basisha, you're married to a woman, now you also live with the daughter. Or ubas bita, the granddaughter, ubas b'na, from the son, inayin, that he gets a punishment. Nemar kan zima, v'nemar lahalan, it says, ervas isha ubita lo segale. Don't reveal the nakedness of an isha and her daughter. Es bas b'na, whether it's a granddaughter, es bas bita. Lo sikach legalos ervasa, shara heina zimahi. And ma lahalan bita ubas b'na. Just like over there, it's a woman with her daughter or a woman with a granddaughter. Avkan bita ubas b'na. Okay. Then this baraisa uses some strange language. Minayin lasos zechorim kinekevos. How do we know that we treat males like females? Nemar kan zima, v'nemar lahalan zima. Ma lahalan zechorim kinekevis, avkan zechorim kinekevis. We really don't know what that means yet. Minayin lasos lamata kilamala. How do we know to make the same dinim that's going to appear later, like the ones that appeared above? Nemar kan zima, v'nemar lahalan zima. Ma lahalan lamata kilamala, just like the psukim later on are like the psukim above. Avkan lamata kilamala. Uma kan lamala kilamata, just like the above psukim are like the bottom. Avlahalan lamala kilamata. Through Xeva Shava, through Zima, and all of that, it's all learned the same thing. Now, some of this baraisa we really don't understand. So the Gemara comes now and analyzes carefully the baraisa. Omar Mar. We make the males like the females. Now, what does this mean? Ilema, maybe it means that the daughter of a son is treated like the daughter of a daughter. That means bas b'no kibas bita. We don't need exer shava. Bahadi adari kosim. Remember, we read the psukim. It says it prefers as bas b'nov as bas bita. So we don't need a drosha. Ella, it comes to teach us aim chamav ke aim chamoso. That living with your father-in-law's mother is the same isser as living with the mother of your mother-in-law. So that's the concept of the zecharim kinekevis. So hashta aim chamoisa lekamalon. We see that there's a whole debate whether aim chamoisa is written beferish in the Torah or not. And you're coming to learn aim chavim ma'adir Allah? You on this thing that is bechlal safek, exactly how we know aim chamav. You're not going to hang your hat on aim chav. Meaning aim chamoisa. We don't know where that comes from. Now you're going to say that it's going to come to teach about aim chamav. We don't know for sure even the source of aim chamoisa. This is how we have to understand it. Minay lasos share abami menu the relation that comes from him. For example, we say bas bito or bas beno. When a man has a daughter, a man has a son, that's his relative. Kishe'era bami man no. We make it like the relatives that come from her, where we said, right? Kibito bas bito. Nemer kan zima v'nemer lan zima. So therefore, that's why Eim Chamav is brought into the picture. But the Torah doesn't use the word zima when it comes to relatives of him. It says ervas bas bincha, right? The erva of your granddaughter, who was the boss of your son, or bas bitcha, or the daughter of your daughter. Lo segal erva son ki ervas chayena. It never says zima. Amar Rava, Amarli Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, it's Asya Hena Hena, because it says Ki Arvas Chahena. And by her relatives, it says She'era Hena Zimahi. Asya Zima Zima. So the Zima Zima Hena Hena comes to say that his relatives are treated like her relatives. Bisreif. Amar. We continue to analyze that brisa. Minayin lasos lamata kilamal. How do we know that the dinim that appear later in the parsha, that means lamata, is treated like the psukim that came lamala? Now, the Gemara doesn't really understand what it's referring to. My lamata kilamala. What do you mean? So, ilema, maybe it means that the Isser of Bas B'na Ubas Bita, a granddaughter, who is either the daughter of your son or the daughter of your daughter, which are written later, Lamata, later in the Psukim, or later in the Seder of the Doiros, the grandchildren will be treated Kibita. So the Gemara says, the Baraisa, to say that, we don't need the Baraisa. Hadari Kasyan. The Psukim say it. So the kavana is es em chama ve'em chamoisoi kechamoisoi. To say that the living with the father-in-law's mother or the mother-in-law's mother, right? That's a further away relation. That's what the Brisa seems to me mean by lamata kilamala, which is directly related to you kechamoisoi. Well, high lamata kilamala, it doesn't work because you're going up to down, not down to up, right? Lamala, lamala. It should say lamala kilamata. The higher up generation, the great grandparents, are like the grandparents. So the Gemara actually amends it to ni lamala kilamata. Ihachi, fine. You were metaritz that portion of the Baraisa, but the Baraisa said something else. Nemar kan zima. V'nemer lahalan zima. It said here zima, and it said later on zima. How do we explain that? Umahash inu loksiva. Now, aim chamoisoi ve'aim chamav are not written in the Torah. We darshaned it the way we darshaned our Mishnah, isha ubita. So zima didu ksiva. So there's no zima written by them. How could you make a gzer shava from something that's never written? Amrabaya hachi kamar. Minayin lasos shloisha doros lamala. 3 generations up means ishto, chamoisoi, and em chamoisoi. That's 3 generations. Kishloisha doros lamata will be like the 3 generations going down. Who's that? Your wife, your daughter, and the granddaughter. Nemer lamata, it says by bas ishto, zima. V'nemer lamalo zima, malamata, that going downwards, the Isser's on shloisha doiros, aflamala shloisha doiros. So we go up from ishto 3 doiros. Uma oinesh lamata kilamala. The oinesh is the same sreifa. Af bazora, nami also lamala kilamata. The lav is also the same thing. Rav Ashi Yomer loylam kitkoni. without the emendation. Umay lemata, it's not has nothing to do with the generations. Lemata be'isser. Lemala lemata doesn't mean the higher doiris or the lower doiris. Lemala means a more stringent punishment, and lemata means a more lenient punishment. The Gemara says that doesn't make any sense. Ima aim ima. That means your wife and the grandmother is asura. Afhu aim imo asura. It was all be sreifa. Amr Abaye, you can't say that. The Torah says ervas avicha ve'ervas imcha lo segale. Don't reveal the nakedness of your father or mother. Imcha hi, she's your mother. Mishum imo atamachayvo. Vi atamachayvo mishum emimo. You're only chayiv for mother, but not for grandmother. Rava Omar, Bein Lemanda Omar, that there's a machlokas when you have a gzer shava, how much do you bring from one side to the other? Don mino. You only learn the specific detail that you're trying to learn. Or, Bein Lemanda Omar, Don minavuki basra. Mino means you bring everything over. Don mina vuki basra means you bring only certain things over, not everything. And therefore we learn like this. Lo asya, we would not be able to have a havamina that you're going to be chayv in Torah on grandmother, emimo. Why? Liman damer don mino. The one who says we learn the gzer shava just very completely. Mahi, which who's the he? Ishto, aim ima asura. Her grandmother's asur. Afhunami, aim imo asura. His mother and the grandmother on his side would also be asur. Umina, and we'll continue to learn. Mahi, if he had relations with aim ima, his wife's mother, the punishment would be streifa. Afhunami, if he had relations with his mother, it would be besreifa. But Laman da Omar, streifa chamura. Remember, we have a machlokas. What's the most stringent death penalty? Either skila or streifa. We paskin skila, but there is a mandamar Rab Shimon who holds that streifa is worse. We would have a way to break the gzer shava, ikla mifrach. Malahi, by aim ima, your chayv streifa, shekain, your chayv streifa if you have relations with your mother, toimer behu, if he has relations with imo, he would be chayv skila. It's not equal. Now, if he's going to have relations with imo, skila, that aim imo, which is further relation, is going to be with a sreifa, and sreifa, according to that shita, is more chomer. That doesn't make any sense. Third kasha, the ode, mahi, meaning his wife and her relatives. Lo chalak deba, bein ima ve'ein ima. The same punishment is sreifa, the mother or the grandmother. Afhu nami lo tachlak bein imo le'ein imo. There should be no difference in punishment with his mother and grandmother. So that's one way we can't accept this gzer shava. Now, ulamanda omar, skila chamura, that skila is more chomer than sreifa, mehai kushya lo niduna. We're not going to be bothered about that because we don't have this kasha regarding a more chomer dika misa. But according to the one that learns the gzer shava, you don't bring everything over. You only bring certain things over. So we can learn Pasha. Mahi, regarding his wife, Ein Ima Surah, the mother and the grandmother are asur. Afunami emimo asur. But v'uki basra, but we leave the other halachos in its place. How? Hosam who bisreif of halacha beskila. Kidash khan b'imo, just like we find that if you have relations with imo, it's beskila. However, that is going to have its own problems. Liman damer sreifa chamura ikla mifra. You're going to be able to break that gzera shava according to Mandomer that says sreifa is worse than skila. Okay, so we keep on going back and forth. Okay, tomorrow, we said we're going to learn
5.
at 5 o'clock. And then Wednesday, 7, Daf Yomi, and 8 o'clock, Tsurba.
Good night.
Have a good
Nice.
Uh,